This morning we will read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 14, text 27 and following. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskrityam naram cheva narottanam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jamudiyayat nasvesya bhatresu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavatu tamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistike.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Sorry Maharaj. So we wanted to read those verses between 12 to 27, or we will just try to go 27, Maharaj.
27 is no purport. It's 29 that I will read.
29.
But you want to read from text 12 onwards?
Whatever you feel, Maharaj. 12 was, or maybe we can just do.
What was the last text you discussed?
11.
We did 11, Maharaj.
Okay, then we continue with 12. I just read them.
Okay, Maharaj.
Ivaisoyam tam adityam abirat anala nala nana Mamanga sarameyoyam abirebat abirovat. Just see, O Bhima, how the she-jackal cries at the rising sun and vomits fire. The dog barks at me fearlessly. But there are some bad omens indicating something undesirable in the near future. Sastako mam savyam dakshinam pasavo pare famsa purusa vyaha laksaye rudato mama. O Bhima saint, tiger among men, now useful animals like cows are passing me on my left side, and other animals like the asses are circumambulating me. My horses appear to weep upon seeing me. Mrityuduta kapoto yam uluka kampayam mana patyuluka sakuvaner vishvam vai sumyamitshata. Just see, this pigeon is like a messenger of death. The shrieks of the owls and their rival crows make my heart tremble. It appears that they want to make a void of the whole universe. Dumradisa parijaya kampate bhusaharibi niryatas samaham stata sakam stanayit nubihi. Just see how the smoke encircles the sky. It appears that the earth and mountains are throbbing. Just hear the cloudless thunder and see the bolts and the blue. Vayovati karasparsa rachasa vrichisam tama asrich varshanti jalada bibatsam ivasarvata. The wind blows violently, blasting dust everywhere and creating darkness. Clouds are raining everywhere with bloody disasters. Suryam hata pavam pasya graham ardam mito divi sasankoder butaganer svalite ivarodasi. Just see how the rays of the sun are declining, and the stars appear to be fighting amongst themselves. Confused living entities appear to be ablaze and weeping. Natyonada sakshubita saramsi samamamsisa nashvalantachnirachyena achena kaloyam kim vidasati. Rivers, tributaries, ponds, reservoirs, and the mind are all perturbed, but no longer ignites fire. Butter no longer ignites fire. What is this extraordinary time? What is going to happen? Na bivanti stanam vatsa, na dianti samatara, rodantyasu mukha gavo, na rishanti rishabhavaje. The calves do not suck the teats of the cows, nor do the cows give milk. They are standing with tearful faces crying, and the bulls take no pleasure in pasturing grounds. Daivatani udanti va sityanti yutshalanti cha ime janapadagama pujana karasrama pastasya nirananda kim aham darsayantina. The deities seem to be crying in the temple, lamenting and perspiring. They seem about to leave. All the cities, villages, towns, gardens, mines, and hermitages are now devoid of beauty and bereft of all happiness. I do not know what sort of calamities are now awaiting us. Manya ete mahot pate nunam bhagavata pate. Ananya Pusha Shribir Hinabu Atasabhaka. I think that all these earthly disturbances indicate some greater loss to the good fortune of the world. The world was fortunate to have been marked with the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord. This sign indicates that this will no longer be. Iti santayatastasya tristaristena cetasa. Prajna Patya Ramat Pramam Yadopuya Kapitvaja. O Brahman Sanaka, while Maharaj Yudhishthira, observing the inauspicious signs on the earth at that time, was thus thinking to himself, Arjuna came back from the city of the Yadus, Dvarka. Tampadayo Nipatinam Ayata Purvamataram Ado Vadanam Abindun Sinchantam Nayanabhyayo. When he bowed at his feet, the king saw that his dejection was unprecedented. His face was downcast, and tears glided from his lotus eyes. Vilokyat Vichnaridayo Vichayam Anujam Nipa Pichati Smasrin Madhye Samsmaram Naraderitam. Seeing Arjuna pale due to heartfelt anxieties, the king, remembering the indication of the sage Narada, questions him in the midst of his friends. Yudhishthira vachakachena nachta punyam na svachana sukamashate madhuboja dasarara satvatandaka vishnaya. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, my dear brother, please tell me whether our friends and relatives such as the Madhus, Bhojas, Dasaras, Aras, Sattvatas, Andakas, and members of the Yadu family are all passing their days in happiness. Then 26. Sumatam kachit vatstaste vatam harisa. Matala sanuja kachit kusalana kudum dudubihi. Is my respectful grandfather Surasena in a happy mood? And are my maternal uncle Vasudeva and his younger brother all doing well? Saptasvasarastan patnyo Matulanya Sahamajam Asate Shasnasa Kshemam Devaka Pramakasvayam. His 7 wives headed by Devaki are all sisters, and their sons and their daughter-in-laws all happy. Now we have here 28-29 with purport. Kashit Raja Huko Kacharaja Huko Jivati Asat Putra Shatsanuja Vedika Sasito Kuro Jayanta Gada Sarana Ashate Kushanam Kachit Yesha Satra Chidaya Adayam Kachitastis Kamramo Paravam Sattvatam Prabhu. Translation. Ugrasena, whose son was the mischievous Kamsa, and his younger brother Devaka, still living, are Ridika and his son Kritavarma happy, are Akura, Jayanti, Gada, Sarana, and Satrajit all happy? How is Balaram, the personality of Godhead and protector of the devotees? No. Purport. Hastinapur, the capital of the Pandavas, was situated somewhere near present New Delhi, and the kingdom of Ugrasena was situated in Mathura. While returning to Hastinapur from Dwarka, Arjuna must have visited the city of Mathura, and therefore the inquiry about the king of Mathura is valid. Amongst various names of the relatives, the name of Ram or Balaram, the eldest brother of Lord Krishna, has the words the personality of Godhead added because Lord Balaram is the immediate expansion of Vishnu Tattva as Prakash Vigra of the Lord. The Supreme Lord, although one without a second, expands himself as many other living beings. The Vishnu Tattva living beings are plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord, and thus all of them are qualitatively and quantitatively equal with the Lord. But expansions of the Jivat Sakti, the category of the ordinary living beings, are not at all quantitatively equal with the Lord. One who considers the Jiva Sakti and the Vishnu Tattva to be on an equal level is considered the condemned soul of the world. Shri Ram or Balaram is the protector of the devotees of the Lord. Baladev acts as the spiritual master of all devotees, and only by his causeless mercy are the fallen souls delivered. Shri Baladev appeared as Sri Nityananda Prabhu during the advent of Lord Chaitanya, and the great Lord Nityananda exhibited his causeless mercy by delivering a pair of extremely fallen souls, namely Jagai and Madai. Therefore, it is particularly mentioned here that Balaram is the protector of the devotees of the Lord. Only by his divine grace one can approach the Supreme Lord Krishna. The Sri Balaram is the mercy incarnation of the Lord, manifested as the spiritual master, the savior of the pure devotees. Om Ajnanatimandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Shakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigave Namaha Shitchetanyamanobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svamrapakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiyuda Padakamalam Shigam Vaishnavamsam Shirupam Jagajatam Sagan Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Pajam Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagalita Shivishakam Vitam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jatpate Gopisha Kupka Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Taptakans Gauri Radhe Vrindavaneswari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamama Haripriye Vancha Kalptrabhisha Kripa Sinvaivisa Padnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani. Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravanya Pacharani. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatani. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So Arjuna is coming back here, and that he looks very dejected. Before Arjuna coming back, that Yudhishthira Maharaj sees all these omens, bad omens. He understood already. Krishna must have left this planet. Because when Krishna was on the planet was very flourishing, feeling ecstatic, feeling Krishna's feet on our surface. But then when he left, it all changed and all these omens came up. And Arjuna is dejected. He doesn't say anything. That because we know he had tried to bring all the queens of Dwarka to Vrindavan, but he was overwhelmed by some cowboys with bows. The great Arjuna could not defend himself. That and Arjuna, he realized that all my power was due to Krishna. This extraordinary power was only due to Krishna. But finally, he will come out of his dejection when he remembers Krishna's words spoken in Bhagavad Gita, and he got strength from it. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking, how are all these family members doing, Ugrasena, and finally, the Ugrasena was the father of Kamsa, and his younger brother was also still living. And he's asking how are they doing, and how is Balaram doing? And in the Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada speaks first about the difference between Shiva Sakti and Vishnu Tattva. This is very important to understand to properly execute devotional service. If you don't know who Krishna is and who we are, we cannot perform devotional service. And that knowledge is given to us by the spiritual master. Lord Balaram is called the protector of the devotees. He acts as a spiritual master. Similarly, the spiritual master protects the disciples by giving them knowledge. The knowledge is our protection against illusory energy. So I will focus now on this last sentence. Prabhupada gives always the essence in practice, the last sentence of the purport. It sums up everything. And he says that only by divine grace of Balaram, can one approach the Supreme Lord, and thus Balaram is the mercy incarnation of the Lord manifested as the spiritual master, the savior of the pure devotees. So also, it means also the spiritual master is a mercy incarnation of the Lord in that sense. And our faith in the instructions of the spiritual master and executing this instruction is the way to get this mercy. One should have great faith. The spiritual master gives instructions, but understanding these instructions, just to understand them and to execute them, one must have faith in the instructions of the spiritual master. What is the importance of having faith in the spiritual master and in the instructions of the spiritual master? I have here a verse from the 7th canto in which Prahlad Maharaj speaks about this faith, that 7.6.28, this verse goes as follows. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, formally explained this transcendental knowledge to the great saint Narada. Such knowledge is extremely difficult to understand without the mercy of a saintly person like Narada. So to understand transcendental knowledge, we must receive the mercy of the spiritual master. But everyone who has taken shelter of Narada's disciplic succession can understand this confidential knowledge. That in the purport. It is stated here that this confidential knowledge is very difficult to understand, yet it is very easy to understand if one takes shelter of a pure devotee. So that's the point Prahlad Maharaj makes. He's preaching to his schoolmates. And he's telling his schoolmates that you can also understand this transcendental knowledge if you just put some faith in my words. So faith in is required, and mercy is required, the mercy of the spiritual master. So the verse said, but everyone who has taken shelter of Narada's disciplic succession, we are in that succession, can understand this confidential knowledge. So without taking shelter of Narada's succession, we cannot understand this confidential knowledge. Therefore, we must be faithful to the teachings of Prabhupada and have full faith in it. It is stated here that this confidential knowledge is extremely difficult to understand, yet it's very easy to understand if one takes shelter of a pure devotee. This confidential knowledge is also mentioned at the end of the Gita, where Lord Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This knowledge is an extremely confidential secret, but it can be understood if one approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the bona fide agent, the spiritual master, in the disciplic succession from Narada. Prahlad Maharaj wanted to impress upon the sons of demons that although such knowledge can be understood only by a saintly person like Narad, they should not be disappointed, for if one takes shelter of Narad instead of material teachers, this knowledge is possible to understand. Understanding does not depend upon high parentage. The living entity is certainly pure on the spiritual platform, and therefore anyone who attains the spiritual platform by the grace of the spiritual master can understand this confidential knowledge. So these principles explained by Prahlad Maharaj, die haben we deeply explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Adi Lila, chapter 2, text 5, purport. Prabhupada writes, one who has faith in the spiritual master receives transcendental instruction, and as his attachment for material life slackens, is able to advance on the spiritual path. Faith in his spiritual master's instructions. If we have faith, then automatically our material attachment starts to go down, and we are on the spiritual path. A side effect, attachment for material life slackens just by having faith in the words of the spiritual master. In Adi Lila, chapter 7, text 95-96 in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, a person who cannot keep faith in the words of the spiritual master but acts independently never receives the authority to chant the holy name of the Lord. So to chant of the holy name, one must have authority. One must get it from a devotee in the disciplic succession. And when one receives it by just faith in the words of the spiritual master, that one has authority to chant the holy name. This is a deep principle. We think just chanting, but not chanting with faith in the instruction of the spiritual master. That empowers us in the chanting. It doesn't say you must become a bookworm and know all the shastras and become a scholar. That may give us some theoretical knowledge, but the practical knowledge is given by Krishna from within the heart. And we get that by chanting the holy name if we have faith in the spiritual master. In Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 9, text 90 in purport, it says, actually the meaning of the words of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam are revealed to only strictly following the orders of the spiritual master. It's not revealed to everyone. They are also revealed to one who has faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, being faithful to both Krishna and the spiritual master is the secret of success in spiritual life. Faithful to Krishna and the spiritual master. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 9, text 195 purport. So I was trying to find all these references which speaks about the importance of faith in the spiritual master. This purport says that this is the process of spiritual understanding. Asintya kali bhavana tamstarkena joya yet. One should not try to understand things beyond our material conception by argument and counter-argument. It does not work. We have to follow in the footsteps of great authorities coming down in the parampara system. If you approach a bona fide acharya, keep faith in his words, spiritual realization will be easy. Of course, in Bhagavad Gita 241, Srila Prabhupada refers to Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, and there it is said, servicing Krishna consciousness is, however, best practice under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna. and one should accept the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. And that's the importance of following the instruction of the spiritual master. But Adi Lila, chapter 12 and 10, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about the fate of those who are not following the orders of the spiritual master. There he writes, the order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. Anyone who disobeys the order of the spiritual master immediately becomes useless. Persons who strictly follow the orders of the spiritual master are useful in executing the will of the Supreme, whereas persons who deviate from the strict order of the spiritual master are useless. And then we have in Madhya Lila, chapter 10, text 17, purport. So this is the way to advance in spiritual science. One must accept the words of an acharya, a bona fide spiritual master, to clear the path for spiritual advancement. This is the secret of success. However, one's guide must be a spiritual master who is actually an unalloyed devotee, strictly following the instructions of the previous acharya without deviation. Whatever the spiritual master says must be accepted by the disciple. Only then is success certain. This is the Vedic system. So means our spiritual master is also one who followed the instructions of his spiritual master with faith. These are characteristics of a bona fide spiritual master. Then we have a comment of Srila Bhaktivinoda Sarasvati Maharaj, Adi Lila, chapter 7, 72 purport. One can become perfectly successful in the mission of life if he acts according to the words he hears from the mouth of the spiritual master. This is accepted. This acceptance of the words he hears from the mouth of the spiritual master is called Shrauta Vakya, which indicates that the disciple must carry out the spiritual master's instruction without deviation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that the disciple must accept the words of the spiritual master. In this connection, that the disciple must accept the words of his spiritual master as his life and soul. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms this by saying that since his spiritual master ordered him only to chant the holy name, he always chanted the Hare Krishna mantra according to his direction. Krishna mantra jape sade e mantra sar. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of the universe, he nevertheless took the position of a disciple in order to teach by example how a devotee should strictly follow the orders of a spiritual master in executing the duty of always chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Only fools give up the service of the spiritual master and think themselves advanced in spiritual knowledge. In order to check such fools, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself presented the perfect example of how to be a disciple. A spiritual master knows very well how to engage each disciple in a particular duty, but if a disciple, thinking himself more advanced than his spiritual master, gives up his orders and acts independently, he checks his own spiritual progress. Every disciple must consider himself completely unaware of the signs of Krishna and must always be ready to carry out the orders of the spiritual master. To become competent in Krishna consciousness, the disciple should always remain a fool before the spiritual master. So these are all quotations about the importance of having faith in the instructions of the spiritual master. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he met Prakasanta Sarasvati Maharaj, he said to him, because Prakasanta Sarasvati said, you are a sannyasi. Why are you chanting these names of Krishna as a sentimentalist? As a sannyasi, you should study Vedanta, be serious, and try to understand the difference between matter and spirit. And Lord Chaitanya, he replied, my spiritual master considered me a great fool. He said, you are not fit to study Vedanta. You just chant his holy name. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya, I'm just chanting these holy names. But then Lord Chaitanya explained the real purport of the Vedanta Sutras. That not the Mayavadi understanding, the real understanding. It was a brilliant, perfect explanation. And all the Mayavadis, they understood the real meaning of Vedanta and were all converted into Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya comes and plays the role of his own devotee. How to be a devotee. How by devotee, by following the orders of the spiritual master, all the spiritual qualities develop in us, and the right spiritual understanding comes to the heart. We see when, I think Lord Chaitanya was touring in South India, came in Sri Rangam, and he saw this Brahmin at the entrance of the temple reciting Bhagavad Gita, but half of the verses he was saying wrong, and because he could not read, and some were making fun of him, but Lord Chaitanya did not make fun of him, and Lord Chaitanya said, I see you are reading, you are reciting these verses with so much devotion, but many, the Sanskrit is not always correct. So why are you doing that? And the Brahmin said, yes, my spiritual master ordered me to read Bhagavad Gita and recite every day the verses of Bhagavad Gita. But I'm illiterate, I cannot read. So I'm trying my best to read that. But Lord Chaitanya said, when I see you reciting these verses, I see tears coming from your eyes. And the Brahmin said, yes, if I look at the picture of Krishna becoming the servant or the chariot driver of his devotee Arjuna, out of love, then tears come out of my eyes. And Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, you have understood the purpose, the real purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. You have realized it. So transcendental knowledge is not just an intellectual exercise. No, realizing transcendental knowledge comes by having implicit faith. There's a verse that Prabhupada quotes many times. One who has implicit faith in the words of the spiritual master, for him all the imports of the Vedas are revealed. So this faith in the spiritual master pleases Krishna, and therefore Krishna gives us the right understanding through the heart. And here in this verse today we have Balaram, and Srila Prabhupada writes, We need the mercy of Balaram, we need the mercy of the spiritual master. Without the mercy of the spiritual master and those in the disciplic succession, we cannot make spiritual advancement. And that is something we have to adopt in our lives. Having faith, where is our faith in? In the instruction of the spiritual master? Or in so many worldly things? It's up to us that so this faith, this deeper understanding, that by this faith we can understand, Krishna. Why does Krishna does not protect his devotees? Because Balaram is the protector. Why does Krishna not protect his devotees from material suffering? That there are many reasons for that. It's all for our benefit. Queen Kunti prays, Krishna, bring me always these calamities because then I'm thinking of you. And when I'm thinking of you, there is no suffering. So, of course, we are in Kali Yuga. In this age, we don't have to pray for suffering like Queen Kunti. It comes on its own accord. Suffering guaranteed in Kali Yuga. Yes, but also for other reasons. To purify our heart, to give up our material attachment. Krishna does not take our karma away, or may take our karma away, but gives it in such a way that we become purified. Even if we are purified, even all our karma is gone practically, Krishna will still give his devotees suffering as a vaccine, so that they don't become attracted again to material suffering. That's another reason that our acharyas gives somewhere in the purport. So with our externally we see things, and we may conclude things wrongly. But Krishna is all good. If we have faith that Krishna is all good, we can accept suffering or happiness, good or bad, as Krishna's mercy. That requires faith in the words of the spiritual master. Faith in the Bhagavatam, because these principles are all explained in the Bhagavatam. So these are a few comments I could give on this verse. Any question? Comments, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class.
Krishna.
When you said that, or when Prabhupada said that we should be a fool in front of the spiritual master, I know it doesn't mean that we should try to do foolish things or that we should manufacture a mood, but that the meaning is that we should be humble and always follow his instructions, not thinking that we know better than him. Is that the correct understanding of that term, to be a fool in front of the spiritual master, or is there more to it?
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj said the following about this. That every day, even if one is practicing 30, 40 years or whatever, every day one should think, I'm like a new devotee, I don't know anything. That with that mentality, one should hear that, and that is according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, the humility of a disciple. He never thinks I'm in front of his spiritual master, I know something. That I'm like new every day. And I noticed myself that even advanced devotees can learn from a new devotee. They know something you don't know. But if one is humble, one can see how Krishna also speaks to them. Many times I learn from the questions they ask also. Then it doesn't happen every day, but sometimes you ask a question, oh, I didn't think about that perspective, but that's also true. So eager to learn, never think oneself when one knows anything, even if one is the most learned. And that's the most safe approach before the spiritual master. It doesn't mean that you have to think yourself a fool, and that is just a psychological game. That I'm the most fallen. Prabhupada said, no, you are not the most of anything. So because some devotees here, oh, the more humble, the more advanced. So I will try to become the most fallen. No, that's a psychological game. But just think myself always. I'm like a new devotee. I don't know. Even if you know, hear it again, and you will get thinking myself that okay, let's listen again, and you will detect new things in very simple things. That Krishna, does that help, Charanacharya?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Good. Good.
Maharaj, thank you very much. If you have a time for one more question.
Yeah, sure.
So, Maharaj, many times it happens that there are no direct instruction or clear instructions from a spiritual master. So in that case, what should someone do?
Yeah, that. Well, we are all in that case. Our spiritual master is not there anymore. But and we see also Arjun here is dejected, and he doesn't know what to do. But then he remembers the instructions of Krishna's Bhagavad Gita, and things become again clear for him. Like Guru Maharaj is not there, but his instructions are not there. I hear regularly his lectures. We stay connected in that way. Aside Prabhupada's lectures, and yes, having faith in his instructions helps. That because if you start to act in a certain way to please the spiritual master empowers, but that empowerment depends on our faith. So he can still empower us. That is still there in that sense through his instructions. And if we are doubtful, we need to consult with other senior devotees about what to do in certain situations. That pray to Krishna in our heart for direction, and pray to the spiritual master and Prabhupada for our direction. And then we have to wait till we see things more clearly. Mostly, if we are not sure what to do, better to wait. If the direction is clear, we go. Therefore, like for the Deland project, we have these meetings on Saturday, but it's very important that because if we discuss during these meetings the project in the mood of Guru Maharaj and pray to him, he will give direction. But it depends on faith. That I experienced myself in many times going to challenges that when I pray to Guru Maharaj for directions, and he gives directions in various ways. That so this faith is also very important. Krishna and the spiritual master reciprocate with our faith. That's my conviction. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj, very much, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good, then we see each other this evening for Nectar of Instruction.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, because next week I will not be able to give class because of the Tirobhav in India, in Mayapur for Guru Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Next week will be difficult. Okay, see you this evening. Hare Krishna. Hare Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, he is on his Bhakti Prabha Maharaj ki. Jai. Hare Krishna.